Hello, meet the fleet. This is a manifest example of my insanity, apparently. These are the three Lupos I currently own. So let's have a look at them. We'll start on the left over here. This is how it all started. This is Luno A, otherwise known as Luna. This car I bought, I don't know, that was a year and a half ago, I think. It had done 183,000 kilometers at that point, which is very good for one of these because most of them had done at least 400,000 kilometers. They were a very popular car in Denmark because they were cheap to tax and cheap to run because they're diesel. So they were often used by people to run back and forth to work. So a lot of them have done, most of the ones on the road today have done at least 400,000. There are apparently some examples of some that have done like 1,000,000 kilometers. But this one had 183,000 on the clock when I bought it. I bought it for 13,500 crowns from a woman who was losing her sight. And I think there may be a connection between that loss of sight and some of the damage on this car, which you can no longer drive anymore. It had problems starting at that point as well. It took like 45 seconds before it would start, and she told me you have to wait for it to click before you try to start it. And that turned out to be the hydraulic accumulator. You can have a look at that. Let me just get the key for this. So many keys. That one. That one. Obviously I have 3 sets of keys on there now, so that's quite confusing. Here we go. So let's pop the hood, the bonnet on this, and we can have a quick look. So, yeah. So when I first got it, you have to sit inside it, and at this point I knew nothing about Lupos. I just knew that I wanted one, and I wanted to see if I could make this one good. So this is a hydraulic accumulator. So it's a pressure vessel basically, where hydraulic fluid from here, just like you would have in your power steering fluid, gets pumped from here into here in order to create pressure. That pressure is used to actuate the clutch. So this car has a semi-automatic gearbox, which is to say it has actually a manual gearbox which is automatically controlled. That's controlled by what everybody calls a Gangstiller, which is German for this control unit down here. So this thing provides hydraulic pressure, and the control unit down here diverts hydraulic pressure to two places basically. One of them is either this at the other end of this thing there's an actuator that pulls the clutch. So it does the same thing that you do when you push the clutch on your manual car. So the control system can pull the clutch. The other thing that thing does is control the gearbox. So there are two actuators to move the gear lever around, the non-existent gear lever around, in order to select gears. So when I got this, she told me it starts okay, but you have to sit in it and wait for approximately 45 seconds until it says click. And when it goes click, then you can start the car. And what was happening there was this car won't start until it can read, I can't remember how much, but a suitable level of hydraulic pressure in this vessel. And if it never gets up to that point, then it'll never start. When these things fail, they will typically take a very long time to build up pressure, and it's quite easy to see because you can actually see how many times you can change gear before this thing starts pumping again. There's a pump in here that builds the pressure up in there. I spent a lot of time trying to work out what the problem was, and if you ask anybody, this car's going past here, if you ask anybody who knows anything about these Lupos, this is where you start. you start to check whether or not you actually have hydraulic fluid, and then you check to see whether or not this thing is expired. These pressure vessels work on the principle that they're filled up with I think it's nitrogen, because you obviously can't compress the oil itself in here, but you can compress the nitrogen. So when this thing pumps oil into this vessel, it compresses the nitrogen inside of here, and that builds up pressure. So what happens is, over time, and you know, these cars are all over 20 years old, the nitrogen leaks out of these vessels, and then they just can't provide much pressure. So I got a new one of these from, there are still people active in these areas. So this is a pressure vessel that comes from another car. Can't remember exactly where it's from. And then there's a little adapter on here, down the bottom there. You see that brass fitting there, which enables you to use this pressure vessel here. The other thing that was wrong with it was that in order to try and build up pressure in good time before you start the car, they've done a kind of like a pre-primer. So when you open the passenger door, it will start pumping, start trying to build up pressure, and that requires you to have a micro switch in this door that works. You can see I've been at work here. That door panel's been off for quite a long time, but you can see the light is on. If you're ever going to buy one of these, make sure that thing goes on when you open the door, because what happens is, as soon as you open the door, the control system will say, oh, somebody's getting ready to drive, let's build up pressure, and it'll start the pump over there. And the reason why you can really hear the pump running when it's running, and the reason why you can't hear that right now is because it's at pressure. So when I got it, took me a little bit of time to work out what that was, but I replaced this, and then it starts immediately now, and this car runs very well. It actually pulls very well as well, and I have a feeling it might actually be chipped I don't know, many of them are chipped up to like 80 horsepower. They're from the factory, they can do 40 in eco mode and 61 in non-eco mode, as far as I remember. So what work have I done on this so far? I obviously replaced this, done a lot of small interior stuff. Mirrors were faulty, so I went to the scrapyard and got new mirrors. The rear view mirror was a bit ugly, so I got that replaced. Changed, obviously done the diesel filter. I don't think that had been changed for quite some time. And the air filter, which is annoyingly buried right underneath the car. You have to jack up the car to get to it, which is odd. Obviously done the service with the oil filter and everything as well. The other thing I've done on it, which was quite annoying, was to change this clutch actuator. I was talking about this thing over here. At the end of this, and you won't be able to see it from here, but on the end of this middle hydraulic cable here is this clutch actuator, sleeve cylinder, whatever you want to call it. I suddenly had problems with this where it would just not go into gear, and the gearbox indicators, which I'll show you. Let's go in here and start her up. There's these indicators down here on the gearbox, so it's showing N right now. They would just be flashing, and that is the transmission control unit's way of telling you that something's wrong. And it normally means that it can't select the gear, but there are a lot of things that can go wrong, and the annoying thing about these Lupos is that it doesn't have the same kind of diagnostics capabilities that the rest of the car has, because this robot that controls the gears and everything is kind of like an add-on, something that Volkswagen developed specifically for this project. The project being to make a car that could do 100 kilometers in 3 liters of diesel. Because they made that specifically for this car, they didn't actually do a good job on the diagnostics. So you can't go in using your diagnostics tool. Typically people will use VCDS for Volkswagen cars. You can't actually go in there and get a lot of info on what's going on with the gearbox. So when it fails, you'll be very lucky if there's anything in there that will tell you what's going on, so you have to guess. And what we found out in the end was there was actually this clutch slave cylinder, clutch actuator, whatever you want to call it. And there's a really good way of finding out about that, actually. I mean, generally speaking, these cars can operate quite well with a slightly faulty clutch cylinder. But one thing which will automatically give you an indication of whether or not it's on the way out, or whether it's perfect or not, is this here. So right now the gearbox is in stop position. I'm going to turn off the ignition. You can see this is flashing. It will do that until you pull the handbrake. And this is to tell you that stop is not like a brake that you can use like on an ordinary automatic car. You should pull your handbrake and not rely on this. But now it's in gear, so it's stopped. And a surefire indicator of whether or not the clutch cylinder is actually any good is whether or not it can start when it's in this position. And for some reason, the transmission control unit, I don't exactly know what values it's checking, because there's not a lot of that happening at this very moment right now, but it is able to tell whether or not it's unhappy with the clutch cylinder. And if it's unhappy, then it won't let you start the car. So, and what you probably will be able to do is move it to neutral and then start it. For some reason, I don't know why the control system is done like that, but it's in stop now. I'm going to put my foot on the brake, turn the key, and the car starts. When the clutch cylinder is on its way out, it just won't start at all. And that's why if you're buying a Lupo and you don't want to have to swap out the clutch cylinder anytime soon, then you should test this. But otherwise, a lot of them will start in. Just turn it off again now. In neutral. Even though they can't start in this, but that's a pretty good way of working out whether you have clutch cylinder problems. But in my specific case, the indicators down here were flashing, and that was telling me that the TCU, transmission control unit, wasn't happy. But that could be a whole bunch of different things. What I found was I could run the gearbox calibration. That's something you can do in VCDS, in the diagnostics tool. It's called basic settings in there. You can do a gearbox calibration where the control system tries to find all of the gears and adjust the positions of all the gears by playing with the clutch cylinder, changing the pressure on the clutch cylinder. So what I was finding was that the gearbox calibration would run again after it had been in this flashing mode, and after it would run, I would be able to use the car, but it would, be totally random how long I could use it. So the last time it did it, I got stranded in a petrol station, and I didn't have a laptop with me with VCDS, which I think if you're going to be enthusiastic about these cars, and you have to be an enthusiast nowadays, you can't just drive these cars. They require too much special knowledge. I didn't have my laptop with me, and if you have these cars, you have to have a laptop with VCDS on them and a cable that you can connect to the ODB port underneath here. So I didn't have a laptop with me, so I had to leave the car. Went back, did the gearbox calibration, the basic settings, and I was able to drive it again. But I only got as far as I did a couple of probably 150 kilometers driving that day, and when I got home I was playing with it, trying to go back and forth here on the driveway, and then it just jumped down again. So then I had to give it up, but finally got hold of a rebuilt clutch cylinder. There are enthusiasts who work on these things, thankfully. So there's a guy in Denmark who does these. So he basically It's basically the potentiometer that tends to go on the clutch cylinder, so it has a feedback mechanism where it tells the TCU where it is, and that over time, I mean after 24 years, that thing actually degrades and ends up not reporting proper values, and that confuses the TCU, and then you end up with the problem that you have, or that I had here. So I got a new one of those, and I put it in. It took me a very long time to work out how to get that thing out. Pain in the ass the very first time. Now I'm a little bit more experienced with it. But having replaced the clutch cylinder, I was able to start it immediately in stop. And already there, that showed me, okay, well, the old cylinder was probably the problem. But I also, when I bought this car, I could actually start it in stop. But and when I started getting these problems, I could no longer start it in stop. But I never put it in stop. These cars from the factory, they're designed to prevent you from stopping the car unless it's in stop. So there's a wire that goes from here up to the ignition, and it actually prevents you from removing the key if you're not in stop. A lot of these cars, the wire is broken or it's been removed. So I never had that feature on this car, so I was always used to stopping it in neutral and taking out the key. So I didn't actually check for a long time whether or not I could start and stop. I didn't really care about that. But that is definitely an indicator that things had improved. Since I've replaced that, it's worked fine. I've not had any gearbox issues. We're now at 204,000 kilometers on this. I don't know if you can see that. So I've driven 21,000 kilometers in it, and it's, I mean, it drives alright. It pulls very well. The engine is very good, and the gearbox seems to be working fine. It is, because it's only done around 200,000 kilometers, it actually has a lot of problems that older cars don't have, because there's a lot of things on this car that haven't been swapped out yet. So it makes a lot of funny noises, which I haven't yet quite sorted out. I haven't sorted them out yet because I have other priorities. This thing needs to go for its MOT at the end of the year. Lucy here next door needs to be MOT'd imminently, so she's going to get the TLC for the time being. Yeah, so I replaced the door lock as well down here in order to make that micro switch work, in order to prime the pump a little bit earlier. But I mean, primary problem there was actually just the vessel itself, which I exchanged. I don't think I've done anything else in this. Yeah, I did. I replaced the right front wheel bearing, which was a bit of an adventure. Because I'm not a mechanic. I absolutely do not know what I'm doing. I rely heavily on YouTube for videos to show me what to do. So I never know what I'm doing. But I replaced the wheel bearing here. And at the time, I didn't know whether or not I was actually going to continue with this project or not. I bought it for cheap, and I don't know what I'm doing, so I didn't want to invest a lot of money and find out that, okay, I'm never going to be able to work this out. So I bought the cheapest wheel bearing I could find on Autodoc from their Ridex series, and that bearing is already gone. So it makes a lot of noise from there. Of other colourful noises it makes, sometimes I think there might be something with the drivetrain over here on this side, because it tends to make a bit of noise from there every once in a while. But like I say, the next thing to do on this will probably be the wheel bearing, and I need to do the brakes, because it also wobbles, or I don't know, jumps a little bit, shakes a lot when I brake. So that'll be the next thing to do on this one. So that is Lupo A, otherwise known as Luna. Luna is supposed to be the perfect car out of these three. So there are some things on this that I'm going to be doing just cosmetically as well, because I want it to look perfect as well. So for example, the bumper is scraped here, so either I get another bumper, quite easy to get, or I might consider trying to sand that down. Probably wouldn't be wise given my lack of skill. There's a dent here. I think I just replaced that door. There's a scratch on the other side here somewhere. Yeah, a scuff there. So, very deep scratches, so I'll probably replace that. The handle over here is disintegrating, so I need to replace that. But these things, the locks tend to die. All of the locks on this work. I've got 2 keys. Oh, that's another thing I did. The car originally arrived with only 1 key, and normally when you get your Lupo from brand new, you get your service book, you get a key, and you get a little key fob with a secret key code on it. And that secret key code was nowhere to be found, as is always the case, obviously, because it's not a good idea to put it in together with your handbook. So people end up losing them. So it arrived with 1 key. I found out that you can use a free utility, and you can use a particular OBD cable, these blue CH340 cables, and you can use a free open source program called KW1228, and that can read the SKCs out of these things. And in that way, I've been able to read the SKCs for each of these. And then I've been able to just get, a locksmith to do a straight copy of the key. I was able to buy new transponders, which is the RFID thing that sits inside of these keys, from AliExpress. And I was able to buy a Z-Bull as well, because if you've got the SKC, then you can use VCDS to program a key. So if you just get the key cut, obviously, and try to start the car, the immobilizer will say, well, I can't find the RFID thing, or it's the wrong RFID, and then it will cut the ignition after a couple of seconds. So you need to program the transponder, but you can't just get a transponder and program it in VCDS. The chips, which are Philips PCF 7935s, I think, they're kind of like generic chips, generic transponders, with a little bit of electronics in them, very little things, only a few millimeters across and probably 1 centimeter long. Those things need to be sort of like programmed for Volkswagen, and you can do that with something called a Z-Bull, which I got from AliExpress as well. So I was able to get transponders and a Z-Bull from AliExpress, and I was able to use the software that comes with that to prime the transponder, and then I was able to put that into the key fob for the, this is actually the new key that I got made, put it into the key fob for this, and then program it with my SKC using VCDS. So now I have 2 keys. I was terribly worried about that because I was really worried that I would lose my key somewhere and I'd be completely screwed. So I'm really happy that I worked that out. Maybe I will do a video on that at some point, telling exactly how that process works and what you need to get and where you can get it from. But yeah, that's the other thing I've done. This programmed an extra key. Yeah, that's about it for this car. Yeah, so the idea is to make this one the most perfect one. And also I got a DPF, a diesel particle filter, installed on it shortly after I got it. That wasn't expensive. Cost me half the car's value, 6,000 crowns for that. 5,000 crowns to get a used one and get it fitted. I don't know if you can see it under here. Sticks out a little bit. There you go. To get it fitted, and then 1,000 crowns to pay the bloody Danish state to register the car with a DPF filter. But it actually reduced the tax on this thing down to 120 crowns every 6 months. So 240 crowns. It's not a lot of money. Makes it much cheaper. So yeah, the idea is to restore that pretty much, make it as new as possible. But that'll have to wait because there are more important things. Sometime after I bought this, I bought this one over here. This is Lupo B. This one is a little bit more sad. It's got rust in annoying places. probably not the most annoying place there, but the most annoying place is, you see somebody's already repaired that a little bit. But the really most annoying place is here and here, and somebody has tried to repair these things, not successful. A bit of rust down here as well. I bought this for 6,000 crowns, which is what, I don't know, 800 euros, I think. 700 pounds. Yeah, so I bought this as a parts car, and unfortunately it's just a little bit too good to be used as a parts car, and I'm probably falling into the trap that lots of motor enthusiasts fall into, where you accumulate these things and you just can't let them go. But I am planning on letting it go. On this one I have 2 keys. I did create an extra key for the ignition. Somebody's replaced the ignition on this at some point, and they just put new ignition in there, so we have different keys for door locks and ignition. I have currently a work in progress project to repin the locks on here so that I can use the ignition key in the doors, and I'm halfway through that and I ran out of pins. I have got some new pins but I haven't done it yet. So we have to open this with one key, it's already unlocked, and we have another key for the ignition. This one has been sitting still for a little while. Can you hear the hydraulic pump? No, it stopped. This one has done 493,000 kilometers. And when I bought it, I thought, well, it actually drove quite well, but I was going to use it for parts for Luna over there. But it just drives too well, and that's the thing. That car over there has done, 200,000 kilometers. This one has done almost 500,000 kilometers. In order to get to 500,000 kilometers, you have to do some work. So there are a lot of things on this car that have been changed. So, the suspension seems to be quite good on it and everything. It runs actually quite well. And in some respects, the ride on this is better than it is on Luna over there. And it's, a little bit too good to part up. So what I'm going to do, I think, I've been slowly improving it. So I have swapped out little bits and pieces that have been broken on it. It's had 13 owners, this car. The other car over there, Luna, the other silver car, has only had 2 owners. I'm the 3rd owner. This one's been through a lot of hands, and they tend to, towards the end of their life, they tend to be bought by people who just want to save money and have a cheap car to run. So the solutions that people do on these things tend to also be cheap. As you can see there, where they've put a screw in the window winder. So it's not had a good life. I'm trying to correct that, and I want to get it, pretty much up to a good level. I'm not sure whether or not I want to do the rest. But yeah, I want to put it back on the road. I'm hoping to end up with only 2 cars, a maximum of 2 cars, but let's see. I would like to, have 2 cars that I can switch between. So whilst I'm restoring Luna over there, I have another car to drive in. But I think it would be nice to have like a 3rd car that I can just work on and fix up and then get back on the road. I'm not really interested in earning money on this. It's a hobby, and hobbies are expensive. But I would like to see them get back on the road. I think that's something that appeals to me. Yeah, so this has a lot of cosmetic problems as well. Apart from the rest of the boot doesn't open, so I need to work that out as well. And you can see down here, it's been where this has been put back in. It doesn't look good at all. But it does actually run quite well. It's been sitting still for quite a while, but I did start it just before. I've just started again now. Runs quite well. It seems to have developed a bit of a hiss, so I think I might have a leak somewhere. Let's go and have a look. Oh. Try again. I I unable to open the bonnet now? A new problem. There we go. Still got the original pressure vessel on it. Seems to work quite well. Doesn't have a lot of problems considering, but you can see a lot of leakage down there. Actually works very well. I've driven this one around about 5,000 kilometers, I think, whilst Luna over there was off the road due to the clutch. So I've done quite a lot of kilometers in it, and it drives very well, but it does have some issues. The rear brakes have been refurbished recently. They look in very good condition. This thing arrived with crappy steel rusty wheels on it, so I put the original magnesium ones back on there. Let's lock this again. But I think also that somebody's replaced the coil spring over here and put the wrong one on there. Because it's, if you look at it, it looks a little bit high compared to like this over here. It's very high. I think we might have the wrong coil spring on there. I would like to get that done before I move this thing on. You see it's sits a bit tighter over there. I think Luna over here is even lower. Don't quite know what that's about. If we look at the third car over here, seems to have slightly higher ride height than Luna over there, so she might have been, I mean, if she's been chipped, I suppose there's a chance that they might also have lowered her a little bit. I don't know. But yeah, so that needs to get done at some point. I need to work out how to get this open again. It did open at some point, but the lock has never worked. So I need to find out what's wrong with that, and then I have to try and work out whether or not I'm going to try and treat the rust on here, or whether I'm going to try and see if I can get a new boot. Most of the boots you can get hold of used already have rust in them, so it's difficult. So, but this is going to be moving on, that's the idea, and maybe I will try and teach myself to do rust repairs on it before I send it off. I don't know, we'll see how much time I have. That brings us sweetly on to Lupo C, otherwise known as Lucy. This is a new acquisition. I picked her up about a month ago, I suppose. This car has a fantastic service history on it. I can't show you because I don't have it here. There's a difference between these two cars, which I also found interesting. If you look on the VIN number here, you'll see blah 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 6EZ. That's Lupo, and it says 4B. B means that this was built in Belgium. You can't actually see the VIN numbers on the other ones because they weren't produced like that. But the two other ones have W's there instead, and that means they were produced in Wolfsburg. Some people think that the Wolfsburg Lupos are better quality because they were built by the proper Germans or whatever. So that's one of the interesting things about this car that I'm interested to see. But let's get inside. We can talk a little bit more about this one. This one has 2 owners only. It's only done 317,000 kilometers, which is nothing for these cars. Let's see. There we go. That's Luna. This is Lucy. So what we can see here, she's in stop, and this one actually has the cable intact, so I can't actually take the key out unless it's in stop, which confused me enormously first time I tried to run it. Starts quite well. She's very noisy. I took my foot off the brake, that's why it went off again. Let's turn her off. Back on again. Can leave her running now. She's quite noisy. Engine runs okay. Like I said, it has impeccable service history. Let's put you back into stop so we can get the key out. So it's only had 2 owners. The guy who owned this, who bought this and owned it for the first 22 years of its life, I think. He recorded every single detail about all the service that's done to it. So it has really fantastic service history, and they've really taken care of it as well. It's had the slave cylinder that we were talking about earlier, the clutch cylinder, has been replaced. The what do you call it? It's called a bow ball in Danish. My English is getting worse and worse. I'm British originally. I've been living in Denmark for more than half of my life, so my vocabulary is degrading. There's a cross member on the back of these things that rusts. That's been replaced as well. A lot of the things that you would have problems with have been replaced. I think it has the original radio in it as well. Volkswagen tend to use PowerPoint. This has got a cassette player in it. So the service history is fantastic on this thing, and that was pretty much enough for me to buy it. It was sold as being not able to change out at first gear, and that to me sounded like a gearbox calibration. So I bought it pretty much on a whim. I drove 150 kilometers to where it was parked. I ran a gearbox calibration on it, and I was able to get it into 5th gear, no problems. Then I left it for a couple of days because I was in my own car at that time. I needed somebody else to drop me off so I could drive it back home. Left it for a couple of days. Came back and tried to drive it away, and I got like 3 kilometers from where it was parked before it just wouldn't change gear anymore. And that was quite an adventure finding out what was wrong. I had to get the car towed back home. And then the adventure began on finding out what was wrong with it. Let's go and have a look at the under the bonnet over here. So what was happening was it would no longer pull at all. It was running fine to begin with when it was parked up there after I'd been left all alone, and then it just wouldn't pull at all, and I couldn't make the gearbox calibration run either at that point. So it just didn't work anymore for some strange reason. And then I got it towed home, and then I discovered that I couldn't even run it for more than a couple of seconds. And that was quite interesting because it felt like a fuel starvation issue. So it would run for like 2 seconds and it would stop. And that could be a whole bunch of stuff. It could be the filter clogged, but I replaced that. Didn't make a difference. There's no lift pump in these cars. All of the fuel delivery happens through this vacuum pump, tandem pump they have over here. This does coolant circulation and vacuum all in one, runs off the engine. So it looked like a fuel delivery problem. So I replaced that, didn't work. Then I tried to set up a canister of diesel and feed it straight into the pump here to see if that was the issue. And it still ran fine. Then I swapped the tandem pump here with the tandem pump in Luna over there. Still had exactly the same problem, cut out after a couple of seconds. I tried inspecting the anti-shudder valve in here, because apparently that can be blocked shut, and that can cause it to cut out shortly after start. Didn't make a difference. MAF sensor, I think that's called. Didn't make any difference whether that was connected or not, so it wasn't that either. What it ended up being was the catalytic converter, which you can see down there. There's 2 catalytic converters on these things. There's one here, which is close to the engine in order to get the gases when they're as hot as possible, because these things are quite efficient, so they don't actually run as hot as a lot of other cars would do. I got maybe I will put a little bit of footage in there, but I got a thermal imaging camera on this, and I could see that the turbo was hot, and the exhaust was hot as well. But the actual catalytic converter itself, the body of it, wasn't hot at all. It was hot all the way up to here, but this was cold, and that indicated to me that it was blocked. And to test that theory, I disconnected the exhaust from the turbo, and with that on, it could run again. Not very well, obviously, but it could run. So that was good. So then I got my neighbour up the road to weld a new one of these on. I got a new catalytic converter and I got that welded in, and it kind of worked. But then we found out that the other catalytic converter underneath the bottom of this car is also blocked. And that's where we are today. So currently that is sort of loosely connected. But this car has other issues, so not enough of that. So I'm gonna get, I want to put DPF on this car as well, because I think it's too good to not have that on it. So I'm currently trying to work out whether or not I can make some kind of temporary switch that will enable me to drive the 100 or so kilometers to the guy who does DPFs, or the guy who did DPF for this one. Get that replaced, and then she should run a little bit better. But she has other problems. The brakes don't work now either. So you can see that the brake fluid on this is quite low. That's because she's leaking somewhere. So I need to get that sorted out. She needs to be MOT'd in like a month and a half. So this is the high priority item right now. One of the first things I did when I was trying to get it to work again was replace the pressure vessel on this. I don't think that was anything to do with anything, but she does now have a brand new pressure vessel on, and she still has the vacuum pump from the 200,000 kilometer car over there. Yeah, so I need to find out where the brake leak is. That's the first thing, because I can't drive this thing without brakes, obviously. Need to fix that. The handbrake is very loose, and these things apparently, the cables, handbrake cables, apparently do go quite easily. So I've bought some new springs and stuff for the Rio drum brakes, and new cables and new pads, but not new drums. No magnesium on these things, so I need to get that done as well. But first priority is trying to work out whether the brake leak is and get that fixed so I can drive. Then I need to find a solution where I can drive her down to somewhere where I can get the DPF fitted. And I need to do the rest of the MOT stuff. So need to make sure there's nothing else that needs doing. So I'm prepared to do all the brakes and that kind of stuff. That'll be the first time I do that as well. Obviously needs more brake fluid and probably needs bleeding. But that is the work in progress right now. So that's where we are. I think that's it for the fleet. One of the things I didn't mention, by the way, as well, about both Lupo A over here, and Rusty, Lupo B over there, is that the cluster, instrument cluster here, died on both of them. It died on Rusty over there during the period where this car was off the road, and I was using that one more aggressively. And two things happened. The backlighting on the whole instrument panel failed first, and it turned out to be this unit here. Just replace it. I got hold of another one of these from scrapyard, replaced that, and that worked immediately. But then shortly afterwards, the displays here failed as well, and that presents quite a problem, because you can go to a scrapyard and you can get a new instrument cluster, and I can get them for around about 300 crowns, I think, if you can lucky to find a car with it still in. The instrument cluster on these things is special because on the standard Lupos you're going to have your temperature gauge here. This car has no temperature gauge. It has the efficiency meter here instead, and it also has an LCD readout at the top there, which tells you what your mileage is, or what your miles per gallon or kilometers per litre are, because that's actually a key feature of this car. Obviously, that's something that they want on the dash. So you can't use any old instrument cluster from any old Lupo. It has to be a 3L instrument cluster. Apologies for the focus zooming in and out here. This phone has 3 cameras on the back, and it switches according to how close it thinks you are, and then that causes it to pop in and out. It's annoying. But the cluster is specific to the 3L, And of course, when you swapped it out, the next problem is that it will the actual mileage is stored inside of the cluster, and that's the only place it's stored. It can be stored in the ECU, but not in all of them. But the mileage it shows is stored inside of this cluster. So if so, when I, for example, swapped the cluster in this one, which has completely failed in Rusty over there, I had the mileage of the car I took it out of, which was like 350,000 kilometers, and this thing has gone 500,000 almost. So that obviously would not look good when it goes for its MOT. That would look like I've been trying to falsify it. So that presents a little bit of a problem. But I did find out you can change it. Horrifyingly, really. I mean, luckily in Denmark, they keep track of the kilometers every time you go to get your car MOT, so you can quite easily see whether somebody's been fiddling with the mileage. But it just annoyed me. I had to drive around with an instrument cluster with the wrong mileage on it. But you can use something called Vag Taco, and maybe I'll do a video about that soon as well. And through that you can reprogram the instrument cluster and how many kilometers it's gone. So I was able to actually bring that back to its proper value. The cluster on this one is working just fine, really, but the backlight on these indicators down here is gone. So I'm going to have to replace this as well soon. So maybe when I do that, I will show you how to reprogram the mileage as well. That'll be one of the things that needs to be done. It's a luxury thing. I mean, the rest of the lighting all works fine. It's just those two bits down there that don't light up. But it does annoy me. I want this one to be perfect as possible at least. So yeah, that's the other thing I've done, playing with the clusters. So that taught me how to use Vag Taco. Yeah, but I think that's pretty much it. So that is it. That is the fleet. And like I say, this won't last forever. I hope not. I'm hoping to move that one on. I'm hoping to bring this up to a fairly good level. I'm hoping to restore this one to bring it up to, you know, as perfect as I can get it. And then at that point I'll use this one as my sort of like backup car and think about what I want to do. But I'm also curious to see, you know, how bad this one is compared to a Wolfsburg car. But like I say, it's been meticulously maintained for the first 22 years of its life. The last 2 years of its life, it's been treated quite horribly. It hasn't been serviced properly at all, which is why it ended up coming off the road. So, but because of the excellent service record that it has, I think it's worth saving. It's an unusually well serviced car. So I hope to bring that up to a very good level as well. It doesn't need a lot of work to do that, I don't think. Just a lot of basic stuff. So there we go, that's the fleet. Lupo A, otherwise known as Luna. Lupo B, otherwise known as Rusty for obvious reasons. And Lupo C, known as Lucy for equally obvious reasons, I think. That's what I am playing with. I hope you enjoyed this waffle. See you next time.